It looks like Kirito has returned to the virtual underworld, and just like the very first season of SAO, it looks like he's not going to be able to leave. Hello my friends, it's time to take a look at another episode of SAOA, another fantastic episode which completely messed with my mind. The end of the last episode had a big confrontation between Johnny Black of Laughing Coffin and Kirito in the real world, and both of the characters ended up attacking each other, with Kirito getting hit with one of his syringes, and then Kirito stabbing this dude in the knee with his umbrella. We do not follow up on any of those events in this episode, and that really freaking pisses me off because I want to know what actually happened to Kirito. It's very evident that he's not dead. His consciousness is still at least alive, if only in the world of the Underworld itself, but how he actually got there and why he's there in the first place is still a complete and utter mystery. It's also worth mentioning that when he returns to the Underworld, unlike the very first time in the first episode, he's actually his current age, and he even runs into his old friend Yu-Gi-Oh, who has also aged as well. The big thing is, Yu-Gi-Oh does not recognize Kirito at all. It's like he's meeting him for the very first time, but the implication is that all of the previous events with Alice being taken away by the Knights actually still happened, but for some odd reason, he doesn't know anything about Kirito. So Kirito, in a way, has to figure out why he's in this world, why he's trapped here, and ultimately how he's going to get out. What's also interesting is that unlike the first time, he actually realizes that he did exist in the real world. He knows about the STL system, but he has no way of actually logging out here or even communicating with the people who are in charge of creating this virtual living world. And that's arguably the most interesting thing about this episode right here. Why does the Underworld even exist in the first place? It's not quite reality, and it's not quite virtual reality. It's somewhere in between, and that's because the entire Underworld is actually inhabited by living, breathing souls. Basically, the STL system has been able to create these sort of artificial fluctlights. They're basically creating artificial souls and living humans within this world, and that's because they're also incredibly lifelike, they have personalities, and they don't act like video game NPCs. This is something that seems to visually disturb Kirito throughout the course of the episode, but it also does a really great job of sort of tricking him into actually living in this world. But what is interesting is that he meets Yu-Gi-Oh, who's still at the same exact place, this giant demon tree, as they call it, which apparently is something that must be cut down, as it's basically sucking all the nutrients out of this land and basically destroying all of their livestock. It's essentially the freaking Tree of Might from Dragon Ball Z, and that's why he has been tasked with cutting this thing down. But they made clear in the first episode that cutting down this tree is going to take a really freaking long time. In fact, Yu-Gi-Oh is just one of the 7th part of this generation of people who have been continuously cutting this thing down, and they've barely even made a dent in this tree. Even Kirito tries himself, but just cannot manage to even barely make a dent in this thing. What is interesting about the episode is actually getting to watch Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh try to reform their relationship as they meet each other again, and almost immediately they start to hit it off and actually end up becoming good friends. By the end of the episode, Yu-Gi-Oh takes Kirito to his village to meet some people, including a character by the name of Zinc, who apparently is an accomplished swordsman to the point where he actually challenges Kirito, and Kirito says that he's a swordsman as well, and totally proves it when he takes one of his one-handed swords and ends up cutting this log in an extremely flashy style. Very much like the SAO games in the past, you get to see like this giant, ridiculous, blinding blue light when he's like cutting through everything, and everyone's pretty impressed with his overall abilities. He finds himself staying with a group of nuns at the end of the episode, continuously curious as to how he's going to get out of this world and how he's fully going to escape. I have to say, Kirito's actually doing a pretty good job of keeping his cool, considering this is not the first time that he's actually been stuck in a virtual world. However, this time, the rules are completely different. While this was something of a slow episode, they're doing a great job of reintroducing us to the Underworld, and I have a feeling it's going to be a great backdrop for this season. We might have actually even seen the character of Alice again at the end of this episode. We get to see this giant white tower, and inside of it is this girl who is sleeping, but I can't tell if it's Alice or not. The moonlight is hitting her, and it's making her hair look blue, and apparently she's a blonde, so it's kind of really hard to tell what's going on here, and the fact that they don't give us any resolution from the last episode just completely shocks me. So what's the rundown on this episode of SAOA? This was another really great and super atmospheric episode episode. Not as exciting as I was hoping for, but honestly it was a great reintroduction to the Underworld, and it's the type of episode that's going to make viewers squirm because they're not going to be getting any answers as to what happened between Kirito and Johnny Black. Something that honestly kind of irked me at first, but I'm really glad that they're kind of holding back on it because it's just going to build up on so much of the mystery and make me want to continue to watch the show. The actual Underworld itself is already immediately interesting when compared to the worlds that we've seen in the previous SAO seasons, if only for the fact that every single character is so incredibly lifelike. Something that completely throws Kirito off base and makes him realize that this is not going to be a regular world. And it continues to build upon the fact that this arc is going to be doing something completely different with its story. This organization, Wrath, is trying to do something with the power of souls, almost as if they're literally trying to create artificial humans within a virtual space. Why this is still a complete and utter mystery, and why they would choose Kirito for this is still very strange. It almost sounds like there's something ulterior here, like there's a dark motive behind all of this, and why Kirito was actually chosen to go in this world, not just because he experienced SAO and was one of the players who was stuck in the game, but there's just something else here that I can't quite put my finger on, and it's one of the main reasons why this season is just so intriguing in the first place. I think it goes without saying that the production value of the show still continues to look very, very good, whether it be just the amazing lighting scenes, or just the character designs, or the amazing backdrops. This is a very pretty looking show, but still, for the most part, kind of looks like a generic fantasy type anime series. I'm sure it's going to evolve a lot more as the actual series goes on, but still, right now, color me intrigued. I can't wait to see more of what's going to be going on in the Underworld of SAOA. What I will say is, while this episode was really slow, I did get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and it was super atmospheric, and you really do feel for Kirito's plight of not being able to escape from this world. It still has the trappings of being in a video game, being able to utilize like all of these different menus and magic abilities, and even when he uses the sword, he seems to have skill-based things. So he's going to be fine in this world in terms of defending himself, but what the ultimate story is going to lead up to is so far an utter mystery, and I can't wait to dive deep in. This episode, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. You guys definitely need to check out this episode. If any of you did watch this episode of SAOA, please tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.